So we're gonna get right back into it here. New day, new recording, but I'm gonna try and explain some stuff again. So I think today we've gone over, the basics of the game. We've gone over Pokemon, we've gone over trainers, and we've gone over energy. I think maybe the best thing that we could do today is just kind of demonstrate the general flow of a game, like go from the beginning all the way through to the end, and yeah, just kind of give an idea of, how the game plays from point A to point Z. So to start out the game, before you do anything else, one person calls the coin flip, the other person will flip it. I'm going to say heads. And it's tails. Tails means, because I didn't get it, my opponent gets to choose if they would like to go first or second. So they're going to go first. Now, going first has its share of advantages and disadvantages. You cannot use a supporter card, and you cannot you cannot evolve on your first turn if you're going first. If you're going second, you still cannot evolve, but you can, holy moly. Okay, that is insane. Okay, so I'm going to explain this really quickly as well. Every time that a person draws and doesn't get a basic Pokemon in their hand, they get what's called a mulligan. This AI opponent, drew 6 hands of 7 cards, and none of those times did they draw a basic Pokemon. So on their 7th hand, they finally drew a basic. Meaning, because they mulliganed 6 times, I am now allowed to start the game by drawing 6 cards. And technically you could lower this if you wanted to. There may be some specific decks where you wouldn't want to. I am going to take the 6. It will kind of make the demonstration a little bit weird because I'm starting with way more cards in hand than normal. Now, something else to note that the game kind of does automatically for you. After you have drawn your hand and gotten your basic and put it on the bench, you take the top 6 cards of your deck and put them over here into your prize card area. So these 6 cards they can be basic Pokemon, but they can't be all of the basic Pokemon in your deck, right? So you have to have something on your bench at least before that starts. Now, this specific deck that I'm playing, I think that there's no timer on turns, right? Hopefully. So I'm going to try and explain stuff while we're going here. This specific deck is based around this guy here, Raging Bolt. And the objective of the deck is to try and get as much energy onto all of my Pokemon as possible, so that I can attack in with Bellowing Thunder for 70 times the amount of energy that I discard from any of my Pokemon. Now, to help out with that, I've got these Teal Mask Ogerpon EXs, and they've got an ability that's called Teal Dance. Once per turn, or once during your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy from your hand to this Pokemon if you attached energy. In this way, draw a card. That doesn't count as your basic attach for the turn. So I could attach a lightning energy to my Raging Bolt, normally, like that, and then after that I could activate this ability, the Teal Dance, and attach a grass energy onto my Ogerpon, and then draw a card because of that. I'm actually going to start out by using a Nest Ball, and I'll explain Nest Ball as well. It allows you to search your deck for any basic Pokemon that you would like to, and put it onto your bench directly. So because of just the way that my field is set up right now, I'm going to actually grab a Ogerpon, and I'll throw that down there. Now, something else worth noting here is my opponent started out with just 1 Pokemon, and they went first and they didn't put anything else on their bench. Into some decks, notably like evolution decks, that's not necessarily a problem, but into this deck specifically, there's a very good chance that I could win turn 1. Because if I attack in with my Raging Bolt, at the minimum amount of damage that it could do, 70, I will KO his Charmander, and he has nothing else on his bench, leading to a win for me. So I'm going to attempt to make that happen. So, one of the other mechanics in this deck is a card called Professor Sada's Vitality, which allows you to take up to 2 basic energies from your discard pile and attach them to your ancient Pokemon. So it's going to seem a little bit odd here, but I'm going to discard a fighting energy, and it'll make sense once I get Professor Sada's Vitality, presuming that I can actually get to it this turn, which this deck does have a lot going for it, so I think there's a good chance that I could. So before I do any of the other stuff, I'm going to do my Teal Dances, because that'll allow me to draw cards as well. So I'm going to do one Teal Dance, and it'll give me a Lightning Energy, and then I'm going to do another Teal Dance, attach here, and we're going to draw into another energy. Nothing spectacular from that. I'm going to leave the Bravery Charm. That's not really that big of a deal. Trekking Shoes is a great option for getting through... Oh, I didn't explain Earthen Vessel either. Earthen Vessel allows you to discard one card and then search your deck for up to 2 basic energies. Make sure that you read basic there. It doesn't allow you to get any energy. Put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So you're sacrificing 1 to gain 2, and sometimes sacrificing 1 can actually be a good thing. So now we are going to use Trekking Shoes here. And, sorry, I should also read Trekking Shoes. Trekking Shoes allows you to look at the top card of your deck, put it into your hand, or you may put it in your hand. If you don't, then discard it and draw another card. We get Prime Catcher off of this, and that's actually like a super, super good card. But in this specific case, if we're trying to get to a Professor Sada's, I'm going to say no to this. Alternatively, you can also look at it and say they only have one Pokemon out there, so there's not really any point in even going for it, right? Squawkabilly, actually here, okay, because I've drawn Squawkabilly, I'm going to do a bunch of other stuff first, but I'm going to explain Squawkabilly first. On the first one of your turns, so it doesn't mean that you have to be going first, it doesn't mean you have to be this guy. The first time that you get to go, if you have Squawkabilly on your bench, you can activate this ability, Squawk and Seize, which allows you to discard your entire hand and then draw 6 cards. Now, before we actually activate that, first of all, let's use another Trekking Shoes, just to see what we get. Nest Ball is also good, but we just don't need it right now. If we're trying to get what's called a donk. I don't know if I said donk before, but that's colloquially what people will call that. So we didn't get a Professor Sada's, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a Lightning Energy to Raging Bolt, because we know that we have a Fighting Energy in the discard. I'm going to use Switch Cart to move Raging Bolt into the active spot. Now let me also explain Switch Cart, because it's relatively important. Switch Cart, there are a number of cards that allow you to switch Pokemon around. Prime Catcher is one of them. It allows you to switch one of your opponent's Pokemon to the active, and then switch one of your Pokemon to the active. Switch Cart allows you to switch one of your Pokemon out from the active spot with another bench Pokemon, and if you do heal 30 from the Pokemon that you moved out of the active, or to your bench rather, you are only allowed to use this on basic Pokemon, which is why it gets the benefit of 30 damage healed. There is a regular card just called Switch, which allows you to just switch one Pokemon with another, and it has no bonus effect on it. But it allows you to switch, let's say a Stage 1 or a Stage 2 as well, or a V-Star or whatever, right? But this specific deck does not run any Stage 1s or Stage 2s. It's all basics, so there's no point in not running Switch Cart in it. That's actually, to some extent, a big liability for the deck in specific matchups. Most notably, I believe it's Noivern. Noivern is able to use an attack that makes it so that your opponent's basic Pokemon cannot damage it next turn, which is nearly impossible to win into. There is a card in my deck called Canceling Cologne, which actually I don't even know if Canceling Cologne works into it. I would need to double check, but there are some ways around it. Anyways, I'm kind of going off the rails talking about stuff here. I am going to put a Bravery Charm on here, because I might as well. I don't want to waste the cards in my hand in case we don't get to what we're trying to get to. I may even Earthen Vessel to thin out the deck to increase the chances of getting a Sada's. It's very greedy, because in the case that we don't get what we're looking for, it's very bad for us, right? So I'm going to do that, and we'll grab that and that. And now that we've set things up fairly nicely, I am going to Squawk and Seize. So I'm going to dump my hand, and then we're going to draw 6. And there we go, we've reached a Professor Sawdust. Now I'm also going to throw down a second Raging Bolt. Completely unnecessary. So you'll see here, Professor Sawdust allows you to choose 2 of your ancient Pokemon. Now, that's something that's just worth mentioning. There's like these little tags, you can't even see it because of the 290 there. Let me see if I can... You can't really see it very well. Anyways, it's underneath the 240 there. It says Ancient. In this current standard rotation, there are cards that are called Ancient, or like, you know, in the Ancient tag, and there are cards that are Future, with a Future tag on them. If you played Scarlet and Violet, you'll know that those cards represent, like, Pokemon from Area 0 that are past and future, or whatever, ancient and future related. So if you played Scarlet, then you would have seen a lot of Raging Bolt and whatever, versus if you played Violet, then you would see a lot of the future Pokemon. There are some cards that reference that. Oh, actually, here's a good example. So that Ancient tag is also on these Raging Bolts, right? So this card allows you to choose 2 of your Ancient Pokemon, so I'm going to choose both of these Raging Bolts. And attach a basic energy from your discard pile to each of them. If you attached an energy in this way, draw 3 cards. So we're going to activate that. And we are going to grab a Fighting Energy for this one, which will allow us to use Bellowing Thunder. And then it doesn't even really matter, we've won the game. But if we were playing this normally, then it would be important to also attach to that. Some other cards in my hand here. This deck is very focused on trying to get your bench set up quickly, and then play Professor Sawdust to just attach energy from the discard, put energy onto your Teal Mask Ogerpon so that you can draw from it, and then just swing in for knockouts, like, as quickly as possible. You're trying to just take 2, 2, and 2, which is, for me personally, a strategy that I really vibe with. It's a strategy that I really like. For the sake of this now, you can see that this attack can do 0 to 350 damage, which is significant already. It can get even higher, but you would never need to do more than, I think actually 340 is the maximum for HP on anything right now. Granted, you could also then have like a Bravery Charm or a Heroic Cape or whatever, so it could go pretty high, but this specific deck is uniquely positioned to be able to deal with that kind of stuff, because the damage output is ridiculous if you need it to be. So all that is to say, I'm going to swing in here. When I activate this attack, I am allowed to choose as much energy from any of these Pokemon as I would like to discard. It doesn't have to be from Raging Bolt that's actually attacking. So in a normal situation, you would generally discard 1 or more off of the active Pokemon that you're attacking with, because there's a good chance that on the swing back, they will KO it. And so there's no point in, you know, keeping a bunch of energy on it so that you can just easily swing next turn. Most of the time you can swing with Professor Sawdust anyways, right? Now, we only need to do 70 damage, so discarding just 1 would do it. Any more than that would just be overkill, which we could for sure do, but I'm just going to do 1 just to show this off. Oh, the music has just changed. Now it's fun holiday Nintendo songs. So yeah, we're going to do this. It's going to say you still have selections to make. Theoretically, we could choose as many of these as we like. We're not going to do that. Say continue. Boom, 70 damage. And like I said before, because they have nothing in the bench, they are out of the game, even though we didn't take all their prize cards. And there you go. Now, it's not a great example of how a game would actually go. I realize that. But it is also a good example of how a game can go. And it's a good example of some stuff to try not to do. There's a good chance that that deck that we were playing against didn't have a lot of options. You know, sometimes you just can't get anything else onto your bench. Sometimes you're just stuck. And quite honestly, there's a good chance that I'd be able to kind of win into that matchup anyways, but you never know. So that's an example of a game. And if there's anything that I missed, if there's anything that you'd like me to go over, feel free to leave a comment. I will be checking those and I'll respond to them if there's anything of note. And if not, well, either way, actually, I am planning to go through a number of these decks. Not all of them. Like, Serena Poison is not a meta deck. You're not going to run into that, like, ever. But I'd like to go through Raging Bolt, Regidrago, Ceruledge, maybe Dialga, maybe Golden Go. Not this version of it. Or actually this version of it, I just haven't built everything for it. Definitely Charizard, and definitely Gardevoir, wherever that is. These are, and Lugia. These are the decks that you will run into very often, and so I would like to do kind of guides for how to play them, generally, like how they play, so that if you run into them, or if you want to play them, you have a good idea of like what to do. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, leave a like. I appreciate it. Have a good one.